We've, as Black folks, being in a vicarious situation where we've been searching for freedom, and we don't really have the understanding of, like, once we arrive at freedom, what exactly does that mean?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. What amazing, awesome, just incredible day it's going to be today. And the reason it's going to be incredible is because we get to do a podcast, right? We get to talk about journey to freedom. As you guys know, and if you've been watching these, we're interviewing 100 Black men during 2024. And we're in the 70s right now as we continue doing. So I hope you subscribe and I hope you find the right podcast that can actually help move the needle for you. Whether it's you're learning in education or you're getting a whole, learn about, some of the history that some of us have, or we learn about the families and family structure. And we talk about, our 5 pillars, which are trust, faith, identity, health, and finance. And so when we talk about those 5 pillars, all of us come from different areas, from different levels. And some of us right now are going, wait, I need to figure out how to make some more money. So you might be watching, one of our podcasts where we talked about money. I know we had one podcast where a guy paid off his house. We had, it might be one we talk about relationships and accountability. And so whatever it is that you need, I promise you, when we come together and we get to talk and we get to share things, because one of the things that is historically or has been an issue with Black men is we'll talk in the barbershop about superficial stuff all day long. We'll talk about our favorite boxer, if you can remember Coming to America, right? We'll talk about our favorite sports team, our basketball team, or hey, LeBron did this, or Kobe did this, or Magic did this, or depending on our age, or Kareem did this, right? But then when we get to things that affect us, like owning a home and not knowing how to do it, or what it means to be a dad, or what it means to be a husband, sometimes we don't talk about that stuff. We don't get together, and so this journey to freedom is just about that: is how do we get a group of men together that are looking towards our futures? Because the reality of our there is, there's the past, that's things that happen. Then there's the future, that's the things we look forward to. But then we say, but we're living in the present. The reality of the present is there's really, in our life, you have to define present, because if you go by time, there's no such thing as the present. Because if I say then, and that can't be the present because it already happened because I already said it. So, but here and now, we say, okay, 2024 or the month of October when we're recording this is the present. And so how do we move from where our current lives are to the lives that we dreamed of? And today I have Waverly on, and I'm excited about talking to Waverly because he has done some things that a lot of us dream about happening. He has had 3 retirements, which means that he has been at 3 different organizations where he made a difference and was able to leave there. And now he's working on something even more special in his own world, And so thank you again, Waverly, for your service, as well as I know he was part of the military and did a whole bunch of stuff there. He was born in the South. What has become a theme that I'm finding with a lot of our guests is we talk about the South as if it's one location, right? There's 5 or 6 states that we think of when we think of the South, but each of the states acts differently. I was having a conversation with a gentleman today, and he was talking about Virginia. When I think of all the stories of Black men in the South, Virginia doesn't seem to be the one that comes up all the time about all this stuff. Although Virginia was, I think, one of the General Lee or somebody was from Virginia, and that's where the battles were and all the things that happened in Virginia. But I don't think of the Deep South as being part of that. But I do think of North Carolina, where Waverly was born. I was born in Denver, Colorado, so I have no And I've lived on the West Coast. I've never lived on the East Coast, and I've definitely never lived in the South. I don't have a reference point other than these incredible podcasts that I get to do. And so I say I'm the luckiest man that gets to do these because I get to learn from some amazing people who have done some amazing things. And so, Waverly, thank you for being on this call today, being willing to share with us part of your journey. One of the questions I will ask you is what your viewpoint about freedom is and what do you think freedom is? Because I think you may have a different viewpoint than some of the other folks that we've talked to. And so, like I say to all my other guests, I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of share your story first. You can start at whatever point in timeline you would like to, and then we'll just go on from there. So thank you again for being on. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you for having me for the most part. And well, you mentioned freedom. Freedom, is, I think, a broad statement. People don't understand, and I can't say all people, but a lot of people don't understand exactly what freedom means. Because we've, as Black folks, being in a vicarious situation where we've been searching for freedom, and we don't really have the understanding of, like, once we arrive at freedom, what exactly does that mean? You know, when we look at other cultures, we see that they have the freedom to move around, to do things, to say things, and not really be affected by what they say or do. But for us as Black people and Black men, a lot of times we have to suppress the things that we want to say because we may not say it in a way that is conducive to the general population because of our experience. And so we have a tendency to hold back that certain amount of freedom. And I've learned that to respect older people, and now I'm getting into that stage where I'm one of those older people.
I love it.
And now, a light has actually came on because I've learned that older people usually say what they feel and have no apologetic emphasis on what they say. And I understand that now because once you're not tied down to a 8 to 5 job,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to watch what you say because you might offend your coworker. You have the freedom to express what you feel with no apologetic emphasis on it. And so now I'm beginning to understand that, and it's really a good sense of freedom. It's a good sense of, like, I can say what I want to say, and I don't care whether you like it or not because I'm not tied down to
Yeah.
this code that you have to live under when you're in the workforce. So that's one of those good things that I do understand about freedom now. And so now it's more vivid and more clear to me. And I'm definitely taking advantage of it. And I'm still sort of reserved, but at the same time, I understand now that I could say, and I try to be respectful when I say it because that's my Southern value, is always be humble and be respectful. But at the same time, it's a learning process. It's like, for me now, how do I say that I don't like what you're doing, I don't like what you're saying in a respectful way without offending anyone, but being able to say that. Uh, Now I'm at that stage where I understand that clearly. And
I love
so,
that too. I love where you talk about, offending somebody and respecting people enough that you don't want to offend them, but at the same time, still be able to tell them you're going down the wrong path or you're doing it wrong. And I think that some of that might just come from relationship. It may come from if you have a good enough relationship with the person that you're talking to, you can talk to them about some things they need to change without the belief that you're going to offend them because we're in such a society today where everything's an offense, right? You look at somebody wrong and they're offended by it, and to be able to have that freedom to be able to move about, and then to think of probably when you were young, and that was just because of the color of your skin and where you walked in and what you said while you were there. you couldn't say anything because you didn't know if you would make it home if you said something that you weren't supposed to say,
Oh,
right?
definitely, for sure.
I
Yeah.
get you. Maybe you can tell me, kind of walk through your life. Can share with us some of the things that's happened to you as you have been on this planet, and we can kind of start there.
Well, you know what? I would say probably my life has been, I wouldn't say exciting, probably more boring, a little bit on the boring side, because I've kind of stayed in the center.
Okay.
The oldest son. There's four of us. My sister was the oldest, but I'm the oldest boy. But what happened in my life early, my mother passed away when I was like 4 years old. And so I didn't have that motherly sort of experience. I was raised by my aunt, and she already had her family. And so when they took us in, it wasn't a lot of love and a lot of hugging and all that was going on, but I was able to observe a lot of things at my early age, 4. I could really start my life at 4 as far as remembering at 4 years old.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then, but like I said, there wasn't a lot of love there. I'm 4. She kids are grown, and she was in her mid 40s at the time, and so she didn't understand that lifestyle. She came from a time period where black folks, for the most part, got a 6th grade education, 7th grade. And that's kind of like how high they been in the South in some areas. And so her education wasn't that prominent. And so there's a lot of stuff that was the generation gap that she couldn't teach us because she didn't know herself. And of course, she had a husband and all that. But I kind of started from there. So I started observing a lot of things, people in my community, people who had parents, and most of my community, people had mothers and fathers in their community. And
Hmm.
so I was able to observe my buddies, my friends, mothers and fathers, and I would pick up and learn things from them and their parents and their fathers and stuff of that nature. And so the things, and plus some of my uncles. So things that I learned, I sort of gravitated that into my personality, and it's kind of shaped possibly who I am today. I had an older cousin that I admired, and I observed his behavior. He was always cool and calm and collected. And I think I picked up a lot of those characteristics. So I didn't let a lot of things affect me. And I started learning that you can control your environment by what you say and what you do, your actions. So I remember as a kid growing up, um, you know, one of the things that other kids used to bully you, they would talk about your parents, your mama this and your mama that. And so since my mama had passed away when I was early, I didn't really have that connection. So I never got angry when they talk about my mama. It's like, okay, you know, I don't really know how my mama would act, but I don't have that affection, so I didn't react to that. And so I started learning that I can control because I've seen people get angry when they talk about their mama and they get in a fight and they do all that. And so it's like, oh, I don't like fighting. So that's not going to affect me. So I started learning how to pace myself and control my attitude and my temper when it comes to things that was outside of me that I had no control over. And so I started developing those attitudes early in life. And then I started example. And I remember my aunt, I have to give it to her as far as she did the best she could with what she had at that time. But she always would compare me to some of my neighborhood buddies, and why don't you act like this? Why don't you act like them? Or why don't you be like this? And my thought process was that, their parents teaching them, but you're not teaching me anything. And so you want me to be like them, but you're not giving me the tools. And I'm thinking this, but I didn't say it to her out loud. It's just that one of those thoughts when you're young, you kind of keep your mouth shut and you listen. And so that's what I would do. But I would understand that, coming from the neighborhood, when buddies go into their house, they have their own little family dynamics, what they deal with. That was behind the scene. I didn't see any of that. But what I seen when they came outside was a certain characteristic that I like about the way and the dynamics of the way they interact with one another. And so I kind of adjusted through that. And so I started learning, from other people's behaviors how to um, justify or how to curve my behavior. And so I was kind of like in the middle of the road. That's what I mean by in the center. So I didn't really have didn't get in a lot of trouble. In fact, didn't hardly get in any trouble. I think I remember being expelled from school maybe twice in my whole 12 years. And one was defending myself both times when somebody tried to bully me and I had to defend myself. And so, but after I know in my early life, you know how when you're young and people ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And so my thing was I wanted to be in the military. And my best friend, his dad was in the Air Force. And so I had a little Cub Scout thing, and we was in the Cub Scouts, and we did the marching, and we did all that. And I remember being in the Cub Scout. Um, we had to make kites. My kite flew higher than any other Cub members, and I was very proud about that. And I made it, from newspapers and sticks and stuff like
Really?
that. Yeah. And
Okay.
so we had to do,
Nice.
and I was just, I didn't get the recognition pretty much from home, but with the Cub members, I got the recognition, and from the Scout master, I got the recognition that mine flew higher. I got a little plaque for it and stuff like that. And so I think that was my beginning of my ability to know that I could do something and be successful at it. And I kind of started from there and just started building on that. Then when we got ready to graduate, all the guys in my neighborhood, pretty much for the most part, joined the military, whether the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, the Navy. We all just kind of went our separate ways. And so, on one of the reasons I stayed in the military so long because I could not deal with working for someone working in the South. Because a lot of black men didn't have, or black businesses didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
you had to work for the white person. And I know that when I did, I wouldn't be treated fair because they could fire me anytime. And the
Yeah.
discrimination that was going on back then, I figured I'd get a fair chance going in the military. And I did. And in some case, I would come home and I got chastised for being in the military. Or you joining the system that's, this
Man,
system.
them
Yeah,
days. Wow. Okay.
yeah. And it made me open my eyes because I was in this system that I didn't want a part of, but this system gave me the benefits that I needed in life. And so I remember the guys that didn't go in the military, they was chastising me because I went in. But then when I looked at what they was doing, it wasn't doing too much. And so I said, well, at least I got a solid job, 24/7, and I
Yeah.
just have a benefit. So I started just kind of going from there. So I joined the military. One of the things I figured out when I joined that it was so funny because it was like a eye opener. I joined the military, and all the things pretty much I learned in my community and I learned it in at home was backwards. So I get in the military and I'm learning all these new things, and I'm finding out that my whole community is backwards.
Oh wow.
Learning not be on time, things like that. Don't show up on time, be late. And it's like, wow, when I got in the military, it was like, be on time,
Yeah.
be prepared. And it's like, oh, wow. And so I recognized early that my upbringing was backwards. And I think it affects Black communities the same way.
Mhm.
We were born into a culture that actually teaches us to negative things, do the things that's not conducive to being successful. And so my first 5 years or so in the military, I had to reprogram my thoughts. And that was something I did internally, something I did on my own because I kind of confided in myself.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm looking at my peers and stuff like this and how they were so excited and so happy about things. And here I am, I'm afraid to speak because, you know, I thought Superman was a real person
Oh my gosh. Oh
because
man.
they told me growing
Yeah.
up that he was real. So I'm saying Superman is real. That's my thought process. And it's like, okay. I said, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I need to learn some stuff. I need to re-educate myself. So that's what I did for the first, 5 or 6 years in the military, just kind of re-educate my thoughts and start learning all over again about life. And so in that perspective, I wanted to see the broader world. It was kind of shocking because I didn't know what the rest of the world looked like.
Mhm.
So what I did was I was assuming that there was other black people in other countries that didn't go through what we was experiencing in the South, the discrimination and all those other things that we was experiencing. Of course, I was born in the 50s, and so the 60s and the 70s was my time frame. And so a lot of the people, the generation that was born in the 40s did all the fighting in the 60s. The young, they
Mhm.
was in their 20s. So they was doing all the fighting in the 60s. So by the time we came along in the 70s, most of the fighting and the protesting and stuff was pretty much over with. Martin
Mhm.
Luther King died. A lot of my older cousins was in those set-ins and protesting and stuff like that. So we had the opportunity to benefit. We integrated. I was in the 5th grade. I was in the 7th grade when we integrated the school. And so I
Okay.
was in an all-black school up until the 7th grade, and that was the experience. And but with all that taking place, I was able to just observe and see and learn and stuff of that nature. And
Hmm. So you left the military, and then you went and worked for who? How did what happened after that?
well, yeah, if I retired from the military, then I was able to go to school. Afraid of education. I wanted education, but I was afraid of it because I didn't know I would be able to get a degree. I went to school, ended up getting a bachelor's degree in social work because I think that was kind of like what I like doing, helping people.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
After I got my degree, I actually got a job. I worked for myself for a little bit. I had started my own business and
Hmm.
opened a full service laundromat and did that for a few years. And then at the same time, I started working for the state of Texas, the Texas Veteran Commission, which is a military branch of the service of the state government that help veterans who actually get out of the military, need help with resume writing, job searching, interview process, and stuff like that. So I ended up doing that. So that was right along my degree path. So I
Okay.
was enjoying that. So it's like satisfaction because now I'm enjoying what I do. So I did that for 6 years. And then what happened was a couple of my coworkers actually got jobs working at the VA, Veteran Administration,
Okay.
and they was doing the same kind of work, but the pay was like double.
Oh
what we-
wow. Yeah. So you had to go.
so it was like, man, I like to get to work for the VA. And so it was funny what happened because there was the domiciliary is where
Hmm.
the homeless
Yeah.
veterans stay until they actually get back on their feet.
Uh,
So the majority of the veterans that was in the domiciliary was black and minority
yeah.
veterans.
Yeah.
And so most of the people, the staff that was assisting the veteran was white. And they had no understanding, no sympathy for understanding for these veterans. They was treating them like,
Yeah.
get over here, get over there, stuff like that. And so the veteran was complaining. And I guess it went all the way up to the higher staff. And so then they came down and said, look, there's no diversity in your staff. That you got, 70 to 80% of your veterans here, that's minorities, and there's no diversity, and you're not, the veterans are complaining. And so one of the guys that I used to work with at the Texas Veteran Commission, he gave me a call, gave my coworker, one of my coworkers, he was actually Hispanic. And so he gave us a call and asked if we were interested in working for the VA. Of course, we both said yes. So we came in and we interviewed and we both got accepted. And that's the first time that the veteran in that particular department was had a diversity in
Hmm.
staff.
Okay.
And so the veterans, they was pleased because now they could see us, one of us in that particular
Yeah.
setting, and they felt more able to relate to some of the things that they experienced in life, and we
Gotcha.
could
Gotcha.
bring that on with the new diversity. And so of course, that was along the line of social work as well. So I was enjoying that. And so I stayed in that for 10 years
Okay.
and ended up retiring last year, June
All right.
20.
All right. And if you're not excited about all the other wonderful things that you want to do in life, right? All those things that you dream about. I think a lot of us dream about, even for me, what is it going to be like? What do I get to do when I retire? I know for some people it's just want to, hang out and, sit on the porch and watch people walk by. And for other folks, they have like these life goals that they've wanted to do, and haven't been able to or had the time to do because they were working. Are any of those the type of things that you've been thinking about doing or wanting to do or are doing
Well,
as you
yeah, I've always been really active, and I think I got that from my dad. He
mm-hmm.
was always going. Now, one of the things about him, I remember him saying to me that he always worked for himself, and he was proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, they called that a hustler, you know.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But he had
Okay, so
he ran the pool
entrepreneur.
hall. Yeah, he ran the pool hall, and he had a theater that was attached to the pool hall, and so he would do uh, theater. He have live people with bands and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that doing acting and stuff of that nature, and so. But I didn't spend a lot of time with him, so I think that I might have inherited some of his traits
Oh,
biologically,
okay.
because
Yeah.
we didn't really bond like that. But the thing was, when I retired, like I said, I had owned a laundromat, which I actually built. I had it for 7 years, and I ended up selling it. My partner
Okay.
wanted to get out. And at the time, I didn't have the funds to buy her out, so we had to end up selling. And this time around, I'm retired again, and now I am owning and operating, and actually started a food truck park.
Okay.
And so we just opened our doors this month, about about a week ago.
Oh, wow. So you're right into
Mhm.
the entrepreneurial. We're gonna get this thing done. I
Oh
love
yeah.
it.
And so the thing that I've been working on it since about 3 years now. So before I retired, I had already started working on it. So I knew exactly what I was going to
Mm-hmm.
do when I retired. But also, I own apartments as well. So
Okay.
I've been doing that for 40 years, I think.
Oh wow. So you for a while. That's
Um,
let me unpack that a little bit, just because there are so many people who, they do the 9 to 5 or the 8 to 5, and they feel like they're working so hard and they don't have time to be able to do other things. They don't have they say, well, I'm working so hard, I need some time to rest, I need to do my vacations, the job's got me, tell me everything, but I want to do more. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own a laundromat. I want to buy some houses and have some rental property. I want to have a food truck. Or the things that you What are some things that you did differently than the folks that are complaining about not being able to do it in order to do it?
well, I did my homework, research, call around, the intangible things that you like. The idea is intangible because it first come to you like this is
Mm-hmm.
what you want to do, but then you start researching, finding out what it would take to actually start that business, and then you start taking notes and you start formulating the idea in your mind, and then you make that idea a part of your life. You create it, and it becomes, you have to, I heard people say, eat, dream, sleep, whatever, make it a part of who you are. And you start talking about it. And I think the main thing is you talk about it. You put it out there in the universe. You
Mm-hmm.
talk to people about it. You ask questions, and you keep telling yourself, this is what I want to do. And you keep coming up with ideas. You write these ideas down, or you store it in the back of your mind, however it works for you. You just keep those ideas going. And then you um, surround yourself with positive people. One of the things, when I started my laundromat, I was in the military when I started the idea, and one of the things that bothered me the most, because I was trying to get some of my buddies to go in with me, because at the time it was a lot of money. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I kept talking about it. But the biggest thing that got me the most was the two-letter word "if,"
Mm. Okay.
and
Yeah.
and so people, they when I say that, they say, "What do you mean if?" I said, the if is whatever your sentence is,
Mhm.
that if could be in capital letters, and it could be
Yeah.
4 or 5 times the font size of
Yeah.
the letter that you're writing,
Yeah.
because it's so big. That's your block right there. That's blocking you from
Mhm.
succeeding, because your thing is, what if it fails? What if this happened?
What
If, yep, the if factor.
Mhm.
And I said to myself, there's some way I have to reduce
Yeah.
this if and make it a small if.
Oh, okay. I like
Uh-huh.
that. Okay.
And so by making it a small if, that means I've already figured out what happens if it
Uh-huh.
fails. And
Okay. Yeah.
that allowed me to proceed forward and
Mhm.
continue on with my goals and my ideas, because I had already capitalized and figured out the if factor. And so
I like
it
that.
worked for me. It worked for me. So even with the laundromat, which was my first big job, business, um, the if factor was, what if it doesn't work? So what I did and what my partner did, we created an exit strategy. What?
Okay. Before you even got it, you had an exit strategy, or this
Yes,
is
yes,
wow. Okay.
absolutely. So
Okay.
if this doesn't work, this is how we're going to do it. And so that answered that if. We was able to get past that little if
Okay.
and just keep on going until we
Uh,
created got the business off the ground. And
now,
so,
were you talked about the buddies that you were frustrated with that couldn't go in with you?
uh,
They, I can't imagine they were positive. Oh, you do it. You, we'll see if you do it. You ain't gonna make it. That kind of stuff. Was that some? I mean, you said we have to surround ourselves with positive people, but was that some of the conversation? Is just their belief trying to cast that doubt on you? Like, since we can't do it, or we're not gonna do it, you're not gonna do good at it either. We're just gonna watch you fail. Did you get that from
yeah,
some of
I
them?
did. I got that, and I got
Mhm.
the wait and see factor,
Okay.
and the what if. That's why I come in with that what if. What if it fails? What if it don't work? And
Hmm.
that was one of those scare factors, and that's why they didn't want. It sounds good, but what if it don't work? So it's like you're fearful, and you creating in your mind, because you're constantly thinking that it's not going to work, that you can't proceed forward.
Hmm.
And so I understood that, and so I started separating myself from those who always say what if, because I've
Yeah.
already figured out that what if it doesn't work. So now I'm gonna proceed on with trying to make it work.
Did any of those guys try to come into business with you later, even after they saw you succeed at it, or were
But
they had an excuse why they couldn't, right? Or
well,
did
yeah, understood that it wasn't an easy task. And
Mhm.
so what they wanted to do was come up with some of their own, but they didn't know how to go about getting started. How do I get started on this? I want to do this here. And a couple of a friend of mine, because I was into real estate as well, but I was able to assist them in buying some property. So some of them actually went out and bought property, and
Okay.
which was not as difficult as it was for actually starting a business from the ground up and building and doing it from that direction.
One of the things you said that is, and sometimes I have these conversations with people is, and you say this is probably one of those silly questions that, it's not worth asking, but it is because people are thinking it.
Mhm.
And you said, I got around positive people.
Mhm.
The silly question part of it is, where do you find positive people?
Well, professional. Well,
Yeah.
professional. You when you talk to people and listen to their response, because I'm gonna tell you the reason how I ended up getting my college degree.
Hmm.
I was in the military. I was an Army recruiter. And so I would have to go to the schools and talk to the students at school.
Hmm.
And so the teachers that I associated with, they would have their little after 5 o'clock business hour where they go to the
Yeah.
little bar and drink and talk. And so those teachers and counselors, I started associating around them. And the one of the counselors, I remember, he said, "Get your education, get
Hmm.
your education." And I was in the military, and I didn't have my education at the time. I had a high school diploma and a couple of college credits, but it wasn't enough to add up to anything. But I remember him saying, "Get your education." And so this was like in 80, round about the mid 80s when I was the recruiter. And then in the late 90s, when I got out of the military, that was almost 14 years later, but that stayed with me. And so when I retired from the military, I remember him saying, get your education. And so I said, I'm going to try it. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. The
Mhm.
algebra and all that good stuff. I said, I don't know about the algebra, but I'm going to keep going. And he was the reason why I ended up getting my degree, because he installed in my mind early in life to get my education. So I was around those kind of professionals, the educators and stuff of that nature. And so it paid off. And I say, if you want to try to do anything, you got to start with positive people that's going to encourage you to take the next level, go to the next step. Because there's always a lot of naysayers and a lot of people out there that say, well, I don't know, you can't make a what if, and I don't know, and stuff of that nature. So they projecting their fear on you.
Oh
And
my
you,
gosh, yes. One of the things that I love about this line of questioning is because we think about, I usually say, so where do you find positive people? You said you look for them.
mm,
But you don't have to look for negative people; they'll find you.
oh, yeah.
People, especially if they see you growing and they're
Uh-huh,
not growing, they want to
uh-huh.
grip that rope and like the crabs in the basket and pull you down.
Oh, yeah.
Because because they know if you can do it, they can do it too. But they don't want to put the effort in to doing all the things you do. And so one of the questions I'd love to ask you, whether it was apartments or your laundromat or even stuff you're doing now, were there times when it didn't work the way you thought about it or you failed at something? What, or is it I just all I did was I got my laundromat and then I made millions of dollars and it was so easy? There are things that you
Well,
had to go through.
the laundromat, it was I wanted it to be right, so I put a lot of money in it, and I wanted to be perfect. And it worked for a while, but then when you look at it, I only had it for about 7 years, and I had to give it up because of my partner. She wanted to get out of it. And then a couple of things that wasn't working, like the machine would break down. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the
Yep.
finances to fix the machine. So when I look back, I could say to myself, it was a failure, but it wasn't a failure because I was able to succeed. And even though I didn't stay with it, I had to give it up. But I kind of did it on my terms. So I look at it as a success. But people can look at it, well, you failed at the laundromat. But then I found that because you might have failed, that doesn't mean you're a failure. That means that you just had a setback and you have to get back up and try it again. And so that's why I'm even more determined with my food truck part now, because I got the experience. But not only that, over the last 10 years or so, I developed a financial uh, capital background to assist me in case of those areas where the money's not coming in and I need to have money to cover this or cover that. So I'm more experienced now.
Yeah, I love that you just said that experience because what you realize is if you are failing or somebody believes it's failure, and I guess that's all subjective of what people think failure is.
Mhm.
But if failure if you don't learn anything through the process, right? If you
Right.
try this, but I imagine for 7 years your business mind changed from the military mind or whatever mind that you had before you started it that enables you to be able to think, okay, if I can do this, or you're around people that you saw doing this, maybe I'll be able to go buy a house or an apartment or something like that. That
Mhm.
idea probably came from stuff you learned by trying something else out. And
Right.
so without it, those other things don't happen, which is so cool. People don't realize that, even though I think John Maxwell talked about failing forward,
Mhm.
because every time something doesn't go right, it's an opportunity to gain knowledge and learn. I don't think we can do life without failing.
Oh,
And now you go, okay, so now people say, well, how does one buy an apartment? I can never buy an apartment.
mm,
That's just, I can't even buy a house. How am I going to buy an apartment complex or be
uh-huh.
able to have that? And how would you answer that for somebody who just says, I can't?
So that again, that's that negative thought, and
Mm-hmm.
you sabotage yourself and your ideas. And I heard people do it a lot. They sabotage themselves by saying, "I can't." And I even heard people that um, try to be positive, and you can tell a positive, a genuine person that's positive. But when you hear someone that say, "Yeah, I'm positive. I got to do this and got to do that," but then it's about them. I don't like this. I don't like that, and I don't like. So you projecting what you say you like, but you actually doing just the opposite. So it's not, so you're setting yourself up for failure because you have to get rid of those types of thinking. That type of thinking, I can't. I don't like all that. You have to say what you like. It's mental, it's spiritual, but when you start saying what you like, then you put that out in the universe. You're going to attract those people that see what you like. But if you keep saying, I don't like this and I don't like that, but why put it out there?
Mm.
Let's put out there what you like. So you put out in the universe what you want to attract. And then those things will start coming to you. And you start learning because believe it or not, there's I call it what's the term I use? Messengers. I
Mm.
call it messengers. People will come into your life you never seen before, never even heard of, and they will deliver a message to you, and then they're gone. You don't hear them, you don't see them no more. And you got to be able to receive that message. And if your thought process is, I don't like this, I don't trust this, and I can't, you won't receive that message when they deliver it to you. So those messengers come into your life. They came into my life several times. I was able to capitalize on it, and I understood, okay, why did he come why did he say this here? And then next thing you know, he's gone. I never see him again in life. But then I understood that message. And so I say to people, attract yourself around people, keep a positive outlook about what it is that you're trying to do. And no matter how negative it might seem, you'll kill that negative with positive thoughts and positive attitude.
One of the things that you said earlier that resonates with me because it's something that I think about sometimes is because I've used the same terminology and you said it where you talk about somebody in their life and you said they did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
When I start to think about that and I think about my life, am I doing the best I can with what I have, or am I taking the bull by the horn? It seems like you did, and I'm doing more with what I have so that I can do the best. And to me, when I'm thinking of it for myself, I think of folks like if you're on this and you're listening to me, are you doing the best that you can, or are you settling for this is all life has been given me, and
Mm.
so I'll just do the best with whatever life has been given me, or are you creating the best of what I have? In your mind, what's your thoughts? Because I see somebody who grew up in your situation where you were in a small town and in the middle of North Carolina, and now you're this. You're not a billionaire, Donald Trump,
Well,
Elon Musk, whatever, but you've done some incredible things with what you've had, and it wasn't just because it was given to you.
yeah, and that is a good point because the opportunity that we have today is different from the opportunity that my parents had. And
Yeah.
so when we put that in perspective, they did the best with what they had at that particular time, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know how, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times how to do better. Now there's some people you can't always paint everybody with a single paint stroke,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
everybody's kind of different. But for the most part, in certain communities, they did the best with what they had outside of it's within the larger community because the
Mm-hmm.
discrimination was widespread and large, and they didn't have the resources and the access to what we have now. So we the best with what we got, but like you said, we could take the bull by the horn and do more because we got more access to um, more access to resources, and we could take those resources and do a whole lot more than what our parents could have done because they was limited resource. There was redlining; they couldn't go any other areas, so their thinking process wasn't as creative as ours is now. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Absolutely, and I think think of there's outliers, in every situation, in every, and then when you look back on history and you start thinking of, I want to be the person that was the Frederick Douglass that learned how to read and became an orator. Or I want to be the Harriet Tubman that was able to take people up the railroad, up and down and escape slavery. Or I
Mhm.
wanted to be the MLK that was able to move people. And we think about all these people that did more than what they had,
Right.
and then we go, okay, so what are you doing that is putting you, because you wish for it?
Uh-huh.
And I see where the difference when I'm talking to you, and I'm loving this conversation, is you said I did the research,
Mhm.
right? Somehow something in you said, I if I'm gonna do this, I gotta figure out how to do it. Instead of watching a television show or hanging out at the barbecue shop or the pool hall, your dad had a pool hall in the theater. I figured out these are some things that I need to do. What do you think separated you from the folks that you hung out with that didn't do it?
And that is a good question because I ask myself that all the time. And my answer to that is the will to do things that other people won't do. And I learned in my military career because when my platoon is was tasked and we start on that task and what my platoon and my soldiers work under me is that we're going to do more than what the task was
Mm.
given. And so what that did is allow us to be in a position whereas my first sergeant would look at my platoon and say they went beyond what we asked them to do. So we did more than what we was told to do. And so by installing that in my soldier's mind, it's like, let's do more. Let's do what he asked, but let's take it 2 or 3 steps farther.
Mhm.
And so that's what I developed in my thinking about what it is I wanted to do. Do more what
Mhm.
other people are willing to do. And by doing that, I was able to set myself different because it may take a few extra steps to accomplish what I want. Average person won't do that. They'll stop and say, well, I can't get any help, or they start looking for others. And I would say, well, I'm going to just do it myself or figure out a way to get it done. And it may take extra hours. It may take a little extra time or coming up with another idea. But I think that's what set me apart from the rest of them. And so,
Oh man, that's so good because in a lot of people's, but Waverly, you don't. You already have a job that goes from 8 to 5. You already have a family taken care of. You already have a laundromat. How are you going to do any more? You can't do any more. You don't have any capacity. How did you find extra capacity to some of those dreams? Because I think that's the key. You're doing a little bit more, but
right,
found the capacity. What did you give something up to do a little bit more, or did you just find more time?
I just more time.
Okay.
And like I said, if that meant get away from my sleep, I cut some of my sleep
So you
time.
gave up some sleep, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
gave up on sleep, stayed up late at night. And the thing so nice about this is like it's not my idea because I started meeting people who had the same philosophy and the same idea. And they was being successful. And I was talking to a gentleman just the other day, and he said, like, yeah, my bedtime is like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, mine's is too. And so I had him design my website. And
Uh-huh.
so he called me about 1 o'clock in the morning and I answered the phone. He said, you up? I said, yep. And so we had a whole conversation. But so there's a lot of like-minded people out there who want to be successful. And you believe it or not, there's a language, a business language, and a success language that you develop by wanting to be successful. And then some people don't understand that, but it goes a little bit beyond just trying to start a business. You know, a lot of people say, I want to start a business, I want to do this, but then they don't put in the work.
So work is part of the success language. Putting the work, being
Yeah.
willing to give up some things that you may not need, like sleep.
Mhm.
Is there any other things in that success language that a person who's saying, "Hey, I want what Waverly has," What do I need to do? How do I get to learn that knowledge or that language?
Well, like again, you associate yourself around people with that same idea, and you just keep asking questions. You got to ask questions. You got to speak your ideas and your dreams into reality. And when you do that, and when you talk to people, you're gonna start being able to distinguish. Okay, I'm getting more information from this, and the thing is that as people, as a community, we have so much information, and we are willing to give you that information for free. Of course, you can go buy a book, you can buy a videotape, you can pay for it. Just like, for instance, if you got a Bible at your home, that Bible have everything you need in it to be successful. But what people do, they go out and buy a book, 7 steps to success. It's right there in the Bible. And so, but be willing to do the research and be able to put that in perspective and make it work. And so that's the difference. Just associating yourself, looking for the information and finding it, and then understanding it.
So what I'm hearing, and I'm saying this boldly because there's somebody on here who's listening here, and I want you to hear me clearly. Um, if I want to learn Spanish, it's easier to go to Mexico and stay there for a little bit of time and learn Spanish than it is to learn it in Montana because I'm immersing it. And so what I hear you saying is if you want to learn business, then you need to get around people who are doing business so that you can understand how to do business and do the things that are necessary to be business, whether it's reading a book or sitting down or researching or talking to somebody. You need to immerse yourself in the culture of that in
Uh-huh.
order for you to learn it. You're not going to learn business from watching TikTok reels of somebody skateboarding down the street and all of a sudden it's going to jump on you how to do stuff. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely. That is the nail on the head. That's exactly what you have to do is immerse into the language, because there is a business language. And so, I mean, you could have your friends, but when you are in business, you got to be able to distinguish, hey, look, we're talking as friends today. Okay, tomorrow we may be talking as business people. So I can't talk to you as a friend because now we're talking business. So you got to be able to turn it on and turn it off. And sometimes you have to do that with your friends. But if your friends understand, then they'll know, hey, look, I'm in the business, and most time people are in business to make money. So I'm talking to you as a friend. Hey, look, you have to. This is what it's going to cost, but I might give it to you for free today. But look, tomorrow you're going to have to pay for it. I'm in the business of making money, and I
Yes.
can't just because if I got a lot of friends, then I'm losing business. So I got to be able to cut that off and say, okay, look, this is the business aspect of it now. You got to pay, even though you're my friend. Look, I got to make money.
Oh,
So
I love that. I remember back in the day when we could go like, "This is my television, turn it off," right? Or your friend, turn them off. In this
uh,
day and age, you just hold this button down, right?
yeah.
And then you say off. That's what you have to do. You turn him off and then turn something else on. Oh man, this has been good. One of the things before we get this, actually, how has faith in your system um, helped you throughout your career and your businesses that you've been able to start?
Well, my beliefs, I have a lot of faith. I'm more spiritual than
Mhm,
anything,
mhm.
and my relationship with God, I think, is no one. It's and the funny thing that you asked that, because we always talk about our 5 senses:
Mhm.
see, smell, touch, hear, and what's the other one? The,
Right.
the fifth one. But we never talk about our sixth sense. And we all have it, but we don't use it. And because we haven't been using it, it diminishes. It's just like riding a bicycle. You don't forget how to use a bicycle, but if you haven't ridden for a long time, you sort of lose that ability to ride the way you used to ride. So our six senses, some people call it intuition. Some people call it gut feeling. They get all kinds of names, but that's that sixth sense that we all have. And it's a spiritual connection to God. That's where my faith come in, because um, God gave us choice. He gave us the ability to make choices. But in our choices, he also said, I pretty much I'll guide you. You see, when there's if it's closed, he'll open it for you. Just ask and it shall be received. Seek and you shall find. And so all those things right there, if you believe in God and have the faith that it's going to happen, but you have to do your work. And that's what I mean by work. And people, when I use that term work, some people say, I don't want to work. That's not work. That's God. God say, look,
Mhm.
you have to seek. So if you're seeking, that requires work. That means you got to go out and look for what you want.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he says, seek and you shall find. So what he's telling you is that you go seek it, then I'm going to make it available for you. I'm going to open that door for you. But you have to get up and walk to the door. I'm not going to bring the
Yeah, I
door
love
to you.
that. I love that. Yes.
I'm not going to bring the door to you. So
Yeah.
my faith, my spirituality kind of goes in that aspect. I have a personal relationship, and my relationship is that I'm always humble
Mhm.
and I'm always willing to listen to other people.
Mhm.
And because life is a learning experience, whether you learn it from the elderly or you learn it from the young people. Life is, as you go through life, you're going to always learn something. And so I keep that in mind as I go through, but I keep my faith and my discipline in looking towards God, looking up and saying, okay, and that sixth sense come in when I'm by myself and I'm saying, okay, what should I do? It might be in the shower. Then all of a sudden this idea comes to me. It's like, okay, when I think about it, where did this idea come? That's my sixth sense.
Mhm.
Now I'm in sync with my sixth sense. So now I know what to do. And so in building my food park, um, someone came and said, well, you need to add this. And I said, I already did because it came to me and I already took care of it. So everything that I wanted in that food truck park, I have accomplished because I was that spiritual faith that I have, then that a sixth sense that allow me to tap into those things that I need. And I think that once we start understanding that we have a sixth sense and we have to tap into that and start using it to the best of our ability until we understand more.
Yeah. So good. What haven't I discussed that you want to make sure that everybody that we talk to today gets to hear, gets to know? I say I'm so blessed because you give me so many ideas of things to talk about, reasons why people are successful versus why people can't quite get it. Is there anything else that you would love for the rest of us to hear?
Well, I think one thing is, let's say like physical and mental health.
Hmm.
You know, you have to be in the right physical condition to receive what it is that you're doing at all times. You have to have the mental capacity to be able to deal with those adverse things that come your way and be able to bounce that off and keep going. So I think that's a good part of staying focused, prioritizing your health, make sure that you are in good health, and then pursue those goals and engage in communities and people that understand health as a part of issue. Because really, when you think about it, mental capacity and your physical capacity sort of goes together.
Hmm.
So if you think that you're sick, most likely you're going to be sick.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's amazing how the mind works like that. So if you think that you're healthy and you do the thing that's healthy, that keep you in good health, then you're going to act that way. And so for a long time, I mean, for me, I don't think about my age, but I had a gentleman the other day, I was up on the ladder and I was fixing stuff and he was concerned. And I wasn't concerned because mentally and physically, I'm in good shape. But when he was telling me, man, I was kind of afraid for you. You might fall. And I said, I already figured that out. I said, if I fall, this is how I'm going to land and stuff. So I've already figured it in my mind how I was going to land if I fail. But then I started thinking, I said, well, shoot, I'm 67 years old. I said, I better, but I created that fear in myself because of my age. But at the same time, I wasn't thinking about my age. I was thinking about my abilities and
Yeah.
what I could still do. And so it was like, okay, I have to be careful because people at my age, when they fall, sometimes they don't recover. But the energy that I have, I believe I got it from my dad because he was like 94 when he passed away, and Yeah, I mean, he kept moving. He was just like a busy bee. He just kept moving. So I think I might have inherited that.
I love it. Waverly, thank you again for being part of the show. Thank you for availing yourself and giving us the time here. What I call are just some amazing gems. And if we can look to the folks that have come before us and know that there are giants that come before us that are showing us stuff. And so maybe we'll have you on. Maybe we can have you on for another special just on, buying property or something like that, can be a more detailed podcast that we put together for those who are really searching and seeking. And so it has been a pleasure. For those of you who are watching, please hit subscribe, hit the bell, whatever it is, because we want to continue to bring some great content like this. And so thank you again for being part of the show. Can't wait to see you on the next time. Don't forget that you are God's greatest gift, and He loves you till you allow Him to. And we'll talk to you on the next one. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.